Hello, I'm Anita Earle and I'm the team manager for the Fostering and Adoption Recruitment team in Birmingham.
Hello, I'm Sarah Kumar and I'm a foster carer for Birmingham City Council.
And hello, I'm Nathan Whitley. I'm the Assistant Head of Service for Adoption and Fostering.
Well, I thoroughly enjoy fostering for Birmingham. I've been fostering for them for 15 years. It's great. It's never boring. Always something going on, and I haven't ever regretted my decision to become a foster carer.
Okay, my team, we actively do promotion work. People may have seen adverts around the city. So we promote the requirements and the needs for foster carers and adopters in Birmingham. But as well, what I also have is a team of dedicated social workers who are able to deal with inquiries from foster carers. We deal with those via the website, via Facebook and via phone calls, or even if people drop into the office. And we talk to people on an individual basis about their own situation, their own desire to foster and whether or not it's suitable for them. And then obviously we look to proceed with them if they are suitable.
Yeah, well, my role is really to look after the fostering managed from the six teams, to enable them to have all the tools that they need so they can support us and assess carers for Birmingham City. Birmingham City Council has one of the largest adoption and fostering services, not just in the country but in Europe. So at times it's a challenge, there's no doubt, because we have over 600 foster carers. But with that comes the advantage of all that experience, and I just ensure that I support that as best as I can.
Well, I think that's the bit that everybody who even thinks about fostering worries about. They say everyone that you speak to says, I don't know how you do it, how do you give them up? I could never give them up. But I think the answer to that is it's not all about me. It's not all about me at all. It's about the child, and you have to bear that in mind. And when you're fostering, there's social work, the children's social workers come, your social workers come, there's meetings you attend. There's always something, there's always stuff going on that you know that process is moving forwards, and at the end of it, there will be that time when that child needs to leave your care. But the way that we deal with it is, as a family, we all look after each other. And we all talk to each other about how that's going to feel, and make sure we check in on each other, how you feel about that. And with different children, different members of the family are more upset than other times. We just all need to look after each other. But what we all know is that it's not about us. And if and when people want to adopt, and when the adopters come, if it's for adoption, because sometimes obviously the children go home, which is great if that works out. But when you meet adopters for the first time, and they've been through so many different reasons why they maybe haven't had children of their own, or haven't had more children of their own, or how or their experience of why they've come to be adopters, you can't give a better gift to somebody, can you, really, than a child that you've raised and cared for and loved and looked after. You can't. That's a wonderful gift to give to somebody else who maybe hasn't been able to have children of their own, or have been through lots and lots of different experiences. And we focus as a family, because it's not just about me. It's everybody. We focus on how important it is for somebody else, and that's how.
I think as well, in terms of preparation training that we do with foster carers, we get them to look at endings of placements. We get them to consider about children and this is all about the child's journey and about where children may be moving on to. And as Sarah rightly says, it may be an adoptive placement. Equally, it may be that they're returning home to their birth parents. And those things need to be celebrated. But not negating the feelings, of the foster care, of that loss, and how they also deal with that and get support from their social worker as well. So we do that as part of preparation training, thinking about how we make endings. And
there's also a period of time between hearing that there's a family that's found for the child to that child actually leaving your house. There's a period of time, and there's a period of introductions. So when you hear when we hear that the child has a family, we might start our letting go, our grieving process. Really, it's almost a bit of grieving. But by the time the new family, the adopters come into our home, we're ready, because we've done our goodbyes, and we've done all our bits of saying goodbye and things, and we're ready then to make it a really good experience for the adopters, because that's what they deserve as well.
Okay, I mean, we're looking for foster carers who can take a broad an age range as possible, sort of 0 to 18 if possible, but if not, as wide a range as possible. And we particularly want people who can take older children. We particularly want people who are able to cope with children with disabilities, and particularly people who might be able to take 2 or more children in a sibling group, brothers and sisters. So first and foremost, have you got space? Have you got space in your house? Have you got a spare bedroom? We need that. We look for people to be over the age of 23, and we need them to show that they are emotionally mature and stable. The other things that, you know, we're open to a wide range of people. You can be married, cohabiting, in a civil partnership. You can be single. So you can have a partner that you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc. So, you know, we're not closing the doors to people. We're saying it's open. Come and talk to us about your individual situation and whether or not fostering is going to be appropriate for you. We need people to think about particularly how they would balance the needs of their own children along with needs of fostered children. I mean, I'll start and then maybe Nathan can dip in. Obviously, you go through the assessment process, you go to panel where ultimately the decision is made about the recommendation to be a foster carer. And then what we've got is 4 support teams across the city. So depending on where you live will depend on which support team you're allocated to. And then within that, you get an allocated link support worker who's there, who will be visiting you, supervising you, offering advice and information. But we also offer telephone support outside of hours. So just because you know, it's in the evening, there is still someone at the end of the phone, and that's throughout all of the evenings. Through the night there are managers on call, and at weekends. If you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we're quite proud of. Is recently we've spent a lot of time and energy trying to improve the offer that we give to our carers in terms of training. It's fair to say that our training offer has been fairly, you know, regular, but we've upped that. And this coming year, we are going to offer 4 times as much training. So it's going to be more specialist sorts of training to help carers with specific needs, really, in terms of caring for the young people and children in a better way. But at the same time, there's going to be more options. So there's going to be more choice. So that training will be on a more regular basis, so they'll be able to pick it when it's needed most. And when we come round to annual reviews of carers, we can also say to a carer, actually, there is this to help you if you'd like, or there's this at any point in time of the year. And maybe Sarah touched upon this, but I've visited a number of support groups, cell groups as well, because the carers themselves, let's be honest, offer the best support to each other. We try and
look after each other. Yeah. We set up a buddying group. There's regular coffee mornings, a couple of times a month, and it is a chat. But if there's anything specific that carers ask us about or don't know about, or something that keeps coming up regularly as an issue for carers, then we're able to address that and chat about it, or even have speakers in to come and address those things.
I think first of all, I'd want to say that's not peculiar to Birmingham. There is a national tool that we use, a national assessment tool that's used. So it's not peculiar to Birmingham to be asking these probing questions and to be doing such a thorough assessment. It's something that's been devised nationally. And it covers all of the elements that are required in order to make sure that somebody is suitable to care for a looked after child. So yes, it is probing, it is intrusive. People often find it quite, for want of a better word, quite therapeutic, that they actually get to tell their life story through the assessment process, and people actually come to often enjoy the assessment process as well. And it's important that we talk to the people around you. We'd be talking to your birth children. You know, we have to take up references from friends and relatives. So there are a number of other people that would be involved in the assessment process as well.
Yeah, I kind of see it from both sides. I mean, I've done plenty of assessments a few years ago now, and you, as you say, it's just right in terms of actually people get to reflect on their life and all the achievements that they've made as well, and what they can give to a child. So actually, I think sometimes it can be a really enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
But I also see from the other perspective in terms of why it has to be probing, why it has to be very thorough. It's a huge responsibility that we all take up. All three of us that are around this table, we take up different parts of that responsibility. End of the day, they are other people's children here.
Yeah, and I think the process it helps the assessor really understand the sort of person that has put themselves forward to be a foster carer, because they want people that are transparent and honest and able to talk about themselves and able to discuss things. And because as a foster carer, you're responsible for somebody else's child, and you need to be confident to be able to talk on behalf of that child. You've got to be really secure in where you've come from and where you're at now, and whether you're completely ready to take on the responsibility of somebody else's child. And I think and as a foster carer, you are opening yourself up to being scrutinised and looked at and checked out. You're going to have people coming to your house. The supervision is ongoing. Once you're approved, your supervising social worker will come around and say, are you well? Have you been to the doctor lately? Is there any problems in your relationship? They'll ask your children, are you still enjoying fostering? So that's an ongoing thing. That's just the beginning, because if you're going to put yourself forward as a foster carer, you are opening yourself up for more scrutiny, and you have to be that kind of open and transparent person. Well, we started when the children were very small, so they've grown up in a fostering household, and they're my birth children, because I have 4 children, but I've got 2 birth children. They're 18 and 15, and they've grown up with fostering. So every time a child comes in, there's an adjustment. But I think it just helps them really understand people and be really tolerant of people and empathetic to them, and maybe wary of the right people as well in some situations. So I don't think it's done them any harm at all, but there's always an adjustment, because you throw anybody into the mix and the dynamics of the house will change, and it's about how you manage those dynamics. And it's not just the main carer that manages those dynamics. They affect everybody. And I think my children I think they're pretty good at it. And I think it's a really good life skill, and I think it's going to be something they'll carry into their adult life and their working life. And I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's a great skill to have.
I think the other thing that goes on the back of that is, obviously, if someone is interested in fostering and do have their own children, particularly if they're living at home, but also not, to talk to their own children, because it is so important that they get their own children to understand what fostering is going to be about and how they feel about it, because it's important that their own children's voices are heard when they're considering whether to do fostering or not. That's really, really important.
Yeah, and just because they say, let's do fostering, I would love someone else to come and live in my house. On that day, 2 years down the line, they might not feel like that. So it's really important to keep talking and keeping that discussion going. And if somebody isn't happy, to really find out why and address it at the time, and not let things bubble away and become a big issue. It's just been, those sort of families that sit, that are chat and are open.
I agree. As a household, that you're fostering as a household. That's what I say to people, that we might have 600 carers, but really we've got over 2,000 carers when you look at
definitely.
it. Because it's not just your partner, it's your children, and it's your parents. I know that a lot of children in fostering would consider their foster carers' parents as their grandparents as they grow up. It's a whole family decision, so it has to be right. But at the same time, that's what can really add real security to that household. Of course, smaller families work in their own ways as well. We know there's a lot to be said for that, in terms of being very, really being able to concentrate on a child. Sometimes that's what that child needs. But
that's why you need so many different carers. Some with large families, because some children respond better to that. Yeah. Some single carers in a quieter house where the child can have more one-to-one, because certain children respond better to that. And that's why you need people from all different backgrounds.
There are many things that make a foster carer, and a good foster carer, and your sexuality really will have nothing to do with that. We're looking for the right people with the right qualities.
In terms of what Sarah was talking about, buddying as well earlier, obviously, you know, if we have a same-sex couple coming through, we can always link them up and buddy them up with another same-sex couple who are already through the process, who can offer them some support, guidance, you know, and help. Because sometimes that helps as well, to know that there are other people out there, you know, who've been through that experience and how it's felt for them.
Yeah.
Because there can be times, you know, with children in school, etc., people get worried about things like teasing, etc. So, yeah, there'll be people out there who will be able to help support and take people through that process.
Well, I think the main thing is to always be the adult in a situation and not be drawn. These children have had sometimes really tough experiences that you can't take that away. There's nothing you can do. When they come to you, whatever they've had in the past, they come with. And you can't change it, you can't fix it, you can't alter it. That's what it is. And so then you're presented with the child, and you have to not. And some of the behaviours they will display, it's about being an adult and not taking it personally and not going, that's not fair, they hate me, you know, and starting acting like the child, because then you're just escalating a whole lot of situations that becomes a bit ridiculous. So there's nothing you can do to fix it. You have to every day and keep starting afresh. If things aren't good that day, it's fine. You can start afresh the next day. And about not carrying over bad feelings, about, you know, if the child, you know, being particularly challenging, it's about not carrying that over, about being the adult and saying, you know what, let's draw a line under this, let's go again.
And learning from it, I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
Learning from what may have happened.
And lead by example, really. You lead by example. If you're throwing your prams, you know, your toys out the pram, you know, then, you know, you can't expect the child to behave in any way differently.
It's about patience, I suppose.
Patience, tolerance, and sometimes just sitting back and accepting that that's how it is for now. But it will change in time. Things don't change overnight. Just because they come to your house and they have a nice warm bed and a nice meal doesn't mean, you know, that suddenly everything's okay in their world, because it's not, because they have their history which they're still carrying with them.
I think it's also about having an understanding of child development anyway, because it's so easy to blame everything on, you know, this is a child who's in foster care, where actually they might just be really normal, typical behaviours, tantrums, strops, whatever words we want to use. But really, they're probably just a lot of normal behaviours that we would expect of any child of that age.
We take everything into consideration. Domestic violence is something that many families have been through. If it's part of someone's past, it's something that we of course will need to go into in the most delicate possible way during the assessment. It's an important thing that we ask the questions and about how, you know, about the circumstances around that. But I've approved many people that have had domestic violence within their past. We don't want them to be the perpetrator, of course, you know, but unfortunately many people are victims of domestic violence, and it's something that young people as well may have experienced. So I would say most definitely no, but of course we would have to look into the individual circumstances around that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and during the assessment process, obviously, we'd be keen to know that whether there is still any potential risk of domestic violence, harassment, or anything like that, because we have to take those things into consideration as part of the assessment process. But also, how people have dealt with it over time, and have they truly dealt with it, you know, and are they able to go on to the next stages in their life? So yes, certainly I'm in the same position that, you know, we've assessed, recruited a number of carers who have. It doesn't mean you're necessarily counted out, but it will be taken into consideration as part of the assessment process. But
like many life experiences, actually, it can enhance. It can really enhance your understanding of other people's lives as well.
Absolutely. In a very sort of short nutshell, it's about making those initial inquiries. It's about a social worker coming out and doing a home visit to you and talking to you on an individual basis. It's about doing those initial statutory checks, the medical, etc. And then it's about obviously being passed over to the assessment team, where they will do the full comprehensive assessment prior to being presented to panel for approval. I think going back to what I said previously, it's about, yes, that's possible, but I think, this woman would need to do some preparation work with her own children. How do they feel about it? How do they feel about sharing bedrooms now, but also in 2 years' time? What are their age groups? Because, if one child's 6 and one's 14, they're not really going to be compatible to sharing bedrooms. So it's about anyone who's thinking about doing that, thinking about, one, is there sufficient space for the children to be sharing? Are they of an age that is going to be suitable for them sharing? If one of them's got GCSEs looming and the other one's still at primary school. But also what preparation they've done with their own children, emotionally, socially, practically, about, managing their own 3 birth children, plus, as I was talking to earlier, about getting to school, maybe taking children to and from contact visits with their birth families. It's about balancing all of the demands of fostering along with birth children. Yes, it can work, but I would encourage to do some groundwork with their own children first.
Yeah, because imagine the situation where they've agreed to yes, that's okay, because they're really keen to foster, because we've seen this before. And then it's not working out. And then what happens then? Because actually there's a child that's come in, and potentially they may have to leave, and that's the implication. The implication is of that happening in the future, perhaps, which you have to consider.
In theory, yes. Depends on what the dogs are, because obviously if they're dogs of any serious concern, we would get a vet assessment done anyway. We do get vet assessments done on 2 or more dogs because they're classed as a pack, and we'd also want a vet assessment done on the snake. So a vet would actually be going out and viewing where the snake's kept, etc. So it's all part of the assessment process. We do have carers with a wide range of weird and wonderful pets. It doesn't preclude them from fostering. It's about us ensuring that the animals are well cared for, they're safe to be around children, or that there are parameters in place so the children are not exposed to any risk.
Most definitely. It's something that's quite close to my heart, because my wife was a disabled foster carer, so I've kind of seen it from that perspective. It's a bit unfair, of course, though, because I have it from that perspective, but people with disabilities bring up families, all the time, and successfully bring up families, and really that's what we're looking for in terms of fostering. We're looking for very similar qualities. Of course, being someone with disability, actually, often I find people with disabilities are a bit more open-minded. They can see through some challenges. A lot of solution focused sort of way of thinking. But of course, we also need to look at the match between the child of the right age and the right physical ability as well. So we need to look at what their disability is, of course, and that would be what Anita would cover throughout the early part of the assessment process.
And I think it's also important to say that all foster carers have a medical as part of the process, and that medical is undertaken by your own GP. It is a very thorough medical, and if there is specialist information required, our medical advisor would ask for that from any specialist that's working with a person who may have a disability. So, we obtain the information, and our medical advisor would then advise us about suitability, and it all forms part of the assessment process.
Yeah, and we ask the people who know you. That's a good thing about asking your GP and asking your specialist. They're the ones that know you, they're the ones that know your ability. So I think that's important.
It's about in terms of how you're going, because we can't always guarantee that we're going to place Muslim children with Muslim carers. So it's about her ability, a bit like what Sarah's talking about, it's about that receptiveness. So we're not saying to someone, you have to change your religious beliefs, but are you able to embrace and care for a child who has a different religious background or no religious background, and how that's going to be how you're going to meet that child's needs. What is it that you may be prepared to compromise, and what is it that you're not prepared to compromise? So we'd be looking for those sort of conversations with you from the initial contact right through the assessment as well.
Yeah, and I'm kind of pleased to say that Muslim carers are represented well.
Yeah.
I recently went to a support group, what we call the cell groups in Small Heath, and it wasn't just because I turned up, but we had 25 carers there, and 24 out of the 25 were Muslim women. And some of them had been doing the job for 26, 27 years. They were just reeling off the years. So we have a really established Asian carer network.